heatsink compound. There's nothing better than getting heatsink compound all over your fingers. It's impossible to get off. Hello, and welcome to part 2 of the HF950 recommissioning video series. And this one's a little bit different insofar as we are going to get a power supply going. Little bit of a gap because I had to wait forever for these resistors to arrive, and I'll fill you in on those as we go along. Yeah, we'll get the power supply going, then we'll clean the upper drum, or rather resurface the upper drum, and yeah, just get it going basically, and finish it off. I know a few of you have sort of asked to see the final stages of recommissioning it after we got the sled going, which was the main issue with that machine. So here it is. So let's crack on. Okay, so I've managed to cover myself in heatsink compound. I know this is covered in heatsink compound, and I still, when I'm moving this about and looking at things, I end up putting my finger or my thumb or whatever on there and getting covered in heatsink compound. And yeah, I never learn. Anyway, what I'm going to do, these are the two transistors, which I have new ones for. They came next day. Ordered those pretty much straight after the first video. I'm going to replace these bipolars again. I think they're fine, but to be honest, I still don't really know what happened with this power supply. I can't see I've made an error. I think I was just unlucky. But I don't know. You know, I can't look back. Just get it sorted, isn't it? Now, this resistor here, it's 0.47 ohm, half watt fusible resistor. Now, this, I know I've read comments on forums about these resistors, and people being quite specific about changing them for these ceramic encased resistors. Now, the way I see it, and also what I noticed in some of the comments, was that these are actually, they are preferable. And the reason they are preferable is Sony are really good at not creating big bangs on this generation of machines when they go wrong. So they sort of die very, very quietly. They just won't work. No smoke, no pops, nothing like that. These resistors just go open circuit, and because the actual resistor is sealed in the ceramic tube with cement at each end, there's no smoke. Now, the resistors I have, these are pretty much exactly the same material that's in there, relatively, I suppose, but they are not in a ceramic tube. So if these do go, there will be a little bit of smoke. I'm happy with that. In fact, I have had a power supply with these fitted go pop, and yeah, there's a little plume of smoke, and that was that. So it's not terrible. Yeah, I'll replace these two as well. The other caps I'm not too worried about. They tend to be okay. There is one down here, which is a bit of an odd one because it's on a 12-volt rail, and it's a 220 microfarad, I think, but it's 50 volts, and I think that's to do with it's like a fail-safe if the part of the circuit that this sort of smooths actually fails, so it needs to be a 50-volt cap there, just for safety. So yeah, I'll research that again, because I remember working it all through and thinking, oh yeah, I can see why they did that, because I know some people actually do just put a 16-volt one in there, and it's really a work, but it's not really the right thing to do. So yeah, so okay, I'm going to solder this all up. I'm not going to show doing that. It's a fairly easy job. It's 2 screws here to get the clamps off, and just be mindful of the insulator. But other than that, it's quite straightforward to do all of this. So yeah, let's crack on. So all done, just ready to put it back in the into its enclosure. But what's interesting is it's a bit fluxy still. I need to clean this up. But there was a slight bad joint on this transistor, Q603, and on Q604, and I also had a bit of a ring of like something going on here with the solder on the transformer here. So I don't know, maybe me putting it about disturbed it and caused it to go pop, but I can't see why it went pop. I've checked the 2 caps that I put in, and they're still testing fine for what it's worth. I mean, you can't quite always trust a tester, but I have replaced them anyway, and I've also replaced the what was it, 4.7 microfarad 350 volt one with a Chemet 4.7 microfarad, actually 400 volt cap, and you can see there the fusible resistor as well, 0.47 ohms at half a watt. It's metal film resistor, and 1% apparently. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I think we are ready to put this back in. The rest of the caps look okay, and I'm happy to actually not replace those. I tend to find that they're generally very reliable. And you can also see the 2 transistors there that I changed. They are slightly different. You can see, you might just be able to make out that they're not completely flat all the way to the top like the ones that came out. But that's fine, because the actual clamps, they still hit the main body of the transistor, and they're pressing hard against silicon. The heat sink there, so yeah, I'm fairly happy with that. A little bit of a rivel going on there, but that's fine. There's so many layers of insulation there. It's actually quite amazing. Yeah, and it's not being distorted. You do have to be careful removing transistors because they are generally stuck. So how I tend to remove them is by actually pulling the whole of the insulation, so they just sort of break free completely, rather than try and pick off the transistors off the insulation, because you end up sort of cracking or tearing the insulation. So yeah, and I have seen that quite a few times actually, where people have tried to remove the transistor and have actually torn the insulation. And yeah, you can replace it, but it's not ideal. And yeah, so you don't want to not use insulation or have it compromised. So let's get it back in the can and give it a test, I suppose. So all back together, so time to give it a try. And I half expect this to go bang for some reason, so let's give it a go. Oh, it's still dead. Is it still dead? Oh no, it's just I forgot about the very dim display. So that's next. So super, that's a good result. So yeah, I'm going to change that display for next, I think. So yeah, let's crack on. So So this is a donor board. You can see it's already unplugged. Now I'm sort of a bit concerned if it's actually plugged at this end, because if it isn't, do I really want to be sort of messing about with all the routing to the backboard on the sled? But well, we'll see. So this board just lifts up. And the other thing I've got to do as well, I've just noticed actually, is this doesn't have the sliders for the audio record volume or level, and those will need to be, so you can see the plug there that plugs into the front for that. I'll have to move those from the old board to the new one, and they are plugged, so that's great. Oh, look at that processor, that's amazing. Very impressive for the time. So there we go. There's the board. So, and I do remember the display on this was actually really very good. So it'll be interesting to see if I change this, if it is actually going to be better, or whether I might have a problem with the voltage rail. In some ways I might have done better to check that. It's probably about -40, I would guess. I very much doubt the heaters would be, the heater voltage would be bad, and I don't know, it doesn't make a huge amount of difference. It's a tiny bit low. Yeah, so let's get the front off and give it a check, I suppose. So let's get the front off, and I've just pulled the drawer out a little bit. Just enough just to get easier access. It just comes off a bit easier, like so. See, that needs a good clean out, so I'll do that as well before it goes back together. One thing worth noting as well, what can happen with these is, and you can see it here actually, you can see like smoking that's gone on in between the front plastic and the filter, and on these it looks as if it's sort of spotted, but it's not. You can literally just very carefully just pick at this, lift up a corner and get a Q-tip or cotton bud underneath. As long as you're careful, you're not too, because it can be quite brittle, this. You can get right the way underneath there, and you can see just how mucky that is. But yeah, I mean, I'm doing this, but it's not, to be fair, I mean, you can see I've made it worse, but it will need some moisture as well on that. I'll probably put just some of the Servasol foaming cleanser, but yeah, that's how you do it. So yeah, but that will need a jolly good clean up. So front panel, you can see the VU meters, which of course we haven't got on this one. These are actually faulty on this as well. Not terrible, but they're not great either. We've got the level, the cord level, which will need to be moved over. But what I'm going to do, yeah, you can see there are screws to remove to get this front off. They're already removed on this one. You see the arrows. And then you just sort of unclip it from the bottom and it comes out. So yeah, let's just try that. So yeah, so I'll take this out and put the other one in. without putting the this on to start off with, just to see what the display is actually like, because it makes no odds at this stage having the record level adjustments. Try not to break these and help it. Let's try from this side. You have to push them quite a long way, and it's a little bit nerve-wracking. There we go. Put this down so I don't. They're quite narrow machines, and they're also quite heavy. So it can be a bit precarious to work on them when on this side, like I have been doing. Of course, this is a slight problem because there's not much freedom, not much play rather, on the I've never done that before. So the method I showed of cleaning this up by putting a cotton wool pad under or between the front and this does work, but this is so, I mean, you can see it's just so affected by atmospheric conditions, I suppose you'd say. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to cut off very carefully the little plastic rivets. In a lot of cases I would melt the plastic, but if I try and do that with this, this is going to melt first, probably, maybe. So, I don't know whether that's enough to get it to shift. Yeah, and then to mount it back, there we go. To mount it back, what I'll do is I'll use some double-sided red tape, same stuff that I use for iPad repairs. I'll just put some in between each of the posts. Posts will then act as guides, helping it locate properly, but yes, I'll clean that up and we'll take it from there. Okay, so I'll clean that up and we'll take it from there. So I don't know whether you can see this, and I did it before thinking, it'd actually be quite good to include in the video. But this, or all the perspex, all the plastic, it sort of had, I suppose it's almost like furniture polish or something, all sort of splashed. You can see some of it there, but the whole front of it was just covered in spray splatter that with the Servasol just would not come off. I even tried isopropyl, and that just really did nothing. So I resorted to my old friend Brasso, and I find it does work quite well, taking out fine scratches depending on the plastic, but also cleaning off this sort of haze. You can see it there. The whole front was covered in this. So yeah, let's do that and yeah, see what it looks like. Okay, so here goes. So it's just this sort of fibrous stuff, and there's actually a fine scratch there. I mean, it won't always take out scratches, but I have found sort of fine scratches it will. So I know I've seen on channels before where this has been used, and with varying results. I think it does depend on how good a quality or what type of clear plastics used. But I find on the Sony stuff, it can make quite a difference. And like I say, even if you don't take them out, it does sort of clean them up. I have to be a bit more careful here. Oh, lost it. Those scratches are still there, but maybe they're a little bit better. Yeah, you can still see some at the top there. Literally, this whole thing was just really bad. It's funny, the camera's actually picking it up better than I can see it with my own eyes. That is not bad. See, there's a bit on the corner there. And it has lessened the scratches. They're still there, but, and I'm not too worried, to be honest. But that is pretty good. Just need to clean them there. But it'll be polished anyway. It'll have like a silicone-based polish right at the end, the whole thing. So yeah, but there aren't even really that many scratch marks. Okay, so done this as well. You can still see some signs of how bad it was. That's really difficult to do there, but you can't see that, so that's cool. So I'm going to put this back on and I suppose reassemble it and see how we go. So, I've cleaned up the VU meter windows as well. They were really very bad here, so much so that I actually did use some of the Brasso on the inside. I was slightly worried I might start damaging stuff, but no, it's absolutely fine. So that's good. So I've put the red tape on. This is I've got various gauges, widths of this tape. It's good stuff, very strong. Does actually need heat to really get to its full strength, but I'm not too worried about that because it's not going to be under any real stress. It's just really just to keep the filter from, well, keep it in place really. So I did sort of clean it up a bit better. I couldn't leave it. So let's put this on. I should, with a little bit of effort, just click over these posts. Like so. Stick it down. And that's pretty good. Still quite grubby under there. I'm not going to worry about that. Nobody's going to see it, and it's sort of a memory of its former condition, its life. So sometimes I think it's just nice to leave certain things. So there we go. That is looking very, very nice. So yeah. So we're all good to go with this. The sliders are working well. We soldered and cleaned all of this up, well, pretty well anyway. I mean, I didn't do a fantastic job, but they will do. So I suppose it's time to get this back together and clean all this out as well. Okay, so I'm going to put this back together. I'm not going to show that because obviously you've seen sort of how it does come out and go in, and how much fun these are. So let's do that and give it a test. Okay, so all back together. Let's go for it, I suppose. Well, it works. And yeah, yes. Sorry, I'm slightly phased because the power supply was making a bit of a whistling noise, and I was going to say I need to check those brand new caps that I put in. Those bipolar capacitors, I've had quite a few of them from one batch that have had quite a high ESR, and they do cause these to whistle. But I checked that. I'd checked them before I put them in. These weren't too bad, but they're a little bit. So yeah, but I noticed it was whistling a little bit, and I just thought, I'm not terribly pleased about that. But it seems quiet, so. Oh yeah, we have got a little bit of a on standby. It's when it's not under load. Yeah, that's gone now. When it's not got the load on it, you can just hear a little bit of a rustle from it. But anyway, yeah. So that's pretty good. So I suppose the next thing, still not great. Yeah, see, there's the digits there, but it's a bit dull. But yeah, maybe it'll improve. I just need to really have a look. Look at probably that minus whatever it is voltage rail, the minus 40-ish voltage rail. You'll notice as well, it's super beta light, and this is fairly common now with these, and it's just literally the switch. Just needs a little bit of working, and it should be okay. I mean, the thing is that generally these switches aren't really played about with much, and they just get noisy. Display. So the next thing is to resurface the upper drum. So I should have ejected the cassette. Let's do that. So yeah, I just need to take off. I just remembered another thing. Possibly I need to look at the reel table as well, because the take-up is still not brilliant on this machine. I just noticed it leave a tiny bit of a loop. It was just a bit lazy putting that in. So you might look at the reel tables as well. Just make sure, well, they'll need a clean. They'll need a clean. You've seen this machine, so yeah. So we'll do that as well. But let's do that upper drum first, and then we can do some playback tests. And yeah, we should be somewhere near. So next job is to do that upper drum. Get that resurfaced. The other thing I'm going to do as well, which I won't show because obviously you've already seen the power supply being worked on. I'm going to change those two capacitors again. It's a bit annoying, but that actually came off really tidily. I was a bit worried that the tab might actually be very broken. No, it's not. Oh, maybe there is a tab missing. Yeah, there's a tab missing on this side. Yeah, it's just not there at all. It's obviously been off in the past. Yeah, so like I was saying, those two capacitors, they did have slight ESR issues. They're measuring about 2.4 ohm ESR. This is not terrible, but basically I've gone through all the other ones in the pack, and I've actually got another pack. I bought another set, another bag from Farnell, and they all seem to be fine. It's just some in this first batch are just bad, and yeah, I suppose it's just the way it goes, but a bit disappointing that so many were bad. Maybe might expect the odd bad one, but yeah, not ideal. So you see the way I'm doing this. I'm doing it the same method as I do with ones that don't have the static drain. The metal is actually really very, very flexible, and again, I'd rather not disturb all of this if I can help it. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but if I can do it without disturbing it, that's great. Okay. Need to get some more of these because these are starting to all sort of get a little bit rounded off now. To do so much. Oh, that's good. It's not often that I actually do drop one of those, and I have to be a bit careful. I mean, look at that. That is so shiny. I do wonder how good the heads are going to be on this, you know. Coils look pretty okay. Certainly needs a jolly good clean as well. These rotaries are not too bad. I want to avoid touching them really. Even though I just rub my finger over there, I just wash them. So it's not so bad, but you don't want to get the oils from your finger on there really if you can help it. There are fingerprints. So somebody has been in here and yeah, that's interesting. Hence why that tab's broken on this side. So let's get this connector off. So okay, I'm going to resurface this now, give it a clean. I'm not going to show it because I've got a dedicated video on that. So yeah, I'll crack on and do that, and we'll take it from there. So that's much better. Does look, oh no, you can see it's not just shiny. It's actually properly roughed up. You can see it there around the back of the drum. It's actually got a little bit more in the way of roughing up than it would have had new, but that's fine. It'll have a good air cushion. So yeah, before I do anything more, I'm going to clean the dust off the top of this as well, and those fingerprints. So let's put this back on. Oh, catching that bit of plastic. I thought it was feeling a bit odd. There's static drain plastic here, and I was catching it. It's like, what's going on there? Yeah, it's obviously not that transparent, but it's obviously transparent enough that I didn't see it. So yeah, there we go. Yeah, so I have it's all back together, as you can probably see. But I was just checking it, but I have actually cleaned the whole tape path, so that's cool. Okay, so here goes. Power on. It actually sounds alright. I don't know whether those caps have just sort of like reformed or something. It's really weird. I don't know. So let's put this in. Seems a little bit. That's annoying. Possibly might have. Oh, there we go. The buttons will need a service. Oh dear. I'd have to come in right on a carry on advert. But yeah, so so yeah, so you can see this tape is probably not best, to be fair. You can see there's a line at the bottom there. I don't know whether it's necessarily. There we go. Let's clean that up. So there are some sparklies, but that's actually on the recording. This is off satellite. But that's really perfect. Really great. Obviously black and white now. Maybe didn't choose the best tape. So still. Just the tracking. There we go. So put the tracking center now. It's got a little bit of a line at the bottom. Like I say, the tape isn't the best, but the buttons seem to be a bit better behaved now. But yeah, I'm actually really very pleased with this. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to run it now and just see how that power supply goes, because those caps seem to be not causing any sort of problem at all now. Just don't like that. I'm still very tempted to change them, and that might happen just because I wasn't happy with the ESR of them. But you know, they are critical as well. I don't know, but yeah, that's for me to decide in the fullness of time. something's dropped on there and it's caused a bit of a mark. That's fine, the paint wasn't that great anyway. So there are problems with the VU meters, but yeah, so there you go. It works, I'm happy with it. We have succeeded, and of course the rail is still holding up really, really well. So this machine, a bit more servicing. These buttons I need to check. Smoke damage has probably just caused problems there. I may well soak them with a little bit of deoxit, which seems to bring them back if they're not too bad. But I just tip it up, just put a drop of deoxits just in the top of it, let it permeate down, because they have like metal domes inside. I think I took one apart actually in a previous video. I might not have, I don't know, I can't remember. But I have done. They're actually quite easy to take apart and clean up if you want to do that. But yeah, I tend to replace them rather than do that for anything, especially anything critical like this, because obviously there's nothing worse than not having a play button working, especially if you can't find the remote, which I do have, incidentally. Here's the remote as supplied by Paul for it. So this will need a service as well, just a good clean up basically. There's been some battery leakage, but not much. I will be doing a bit of a video on a couple of remotes actually coming up, and one that has had leakage in the past and unfortunately is continuing to suffer as a result of that leakage, which is always a problem. Once they get affected by leaky batteries, they just keep on rotting. But anyway, hope you enjoyed this one. Hope you're pleased I've got this going. And yeah, I will be testing recording as well. I don't know what Paul's exactly going to use this for. I think he's just going to use it to play back tape, so that's fine. I do suspect this is not going to record particularly well, and I wouldn't be surprised that that audio arrays bias transformer will be open circuit, which is very common on these machines. So linear audio will be out of the question anyway, but I will give that a test and I'll let you know in the comments, and I might even just record it if there's anything of interest. I might just record that as a little segment and put it in the updates video for later in the year. So with that, thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe as well. It really does mean so much to me, and thank you to everyone who has subscribed. Really means a lot. Yeah, join me on the journey. So with that, see you in another video. Bye for now.